Texas Podcast Massacre contains spoilers and adult language. For more horror, visit us at our website at texaspodcastmassacre.com.
Welcome to another episode of Texas Podcast Massacre, coming to you from Houston, Texas. I'm your host, Mitch, and with me, as always, is my fellow road tripper, Nate.
What's the matter, Mitch? Don't like dog anymore?
Oh, I do like dog, just not in the way you're describing. Welcome to another episode of Texas Podcast Massacre, where each week we take a look at a different horror movie and debate a horror-related topic with our unsuspecting victim, who's usually not someone we would call a horror fan. I say usually, though, because we have a returning guest, one of our favorite people to talk to about horror movies, particularly classic horror movies. And Nate, I think this week we are talking about one of the pinnacle classic movies, horror movies, in The Hills Have Eyes. With us this week, we have Kevin Castle from the Don, Tony, and Kevin Castle Show. Welcome back, brother.
Hey, what's up, man? It's good to be called a favorite. I was told I'm not that popular, but you guys just proven that point to be wrong. So I'm happy to be liked. And
no, you would be in the Mitch is working on his studio, but if there's some sort of Hall of Fame rafters,
nice.
Yeah, we're gonna we'll get a banner.
Yeah, exactly. Nice. Kevin Castle 2020.
That's
banner
awesome.
Just put in there. Let us know what number you want retired. And, we'll work on it.
Clearly 13. So
okay, there
course.
you go. 13 taken.
Makes
That makes
sense.
total sense.
Oh, cool. Well, welcome back. So, yeah, so I know we have talked about doing this episode with you for quite some time. So we finally wanted to wait for the right moment. I think we found it now to talk about The Hills Have Eyes. Kevin, I'm assuming you probably saw this. Did you see it when it was in theaters? Did you see it later on? When was your first time with this movie?
I saw the trailer for this movie in early 1977. I was at, I think it was Saturday Night Fever. My father took us to see the R version. And there was a trailer for The Hills Have Eyes, and I was captivated by it. I mean, I was 9 years old to be exact. And, but I remember it vividly that, just the bald-headed guy, Michael Berryman, struck a chord with me completely. Yeah. And I just was like, is that makeup? And I remember asking my father, is that a real person? And and as even the movie we're watching, I guess, Saturday Night Fever, I was just thinking about this horror movie. And I had already liked Universal horror movies, Frankenstein, Dracula. I was, a little kid, and I was fascinated by Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein, everything that was on TV in the 70s, the horror movie of the week, Channel 7, Horror Marathon. So The Hills Have Eyes, and my father's like, we're not going to see that one. That looks so. And I was remember telling my dad, but this is rated R. He goes, this is different though. This is about dancing. I'm not taking you to see that. So he's like, shh, and he's just shushing me down for the movies. So I'm like, I want to see it. Though after we left the movie, I'm just like, The Hills Have Eyes. And I remember saying it to myself. Then I saw the commercial on TV. I remember telling my older brother, I was like, think Uncle Carl will take us to see that? Dad won't take us to see it. He goes, Uncle Carl doesn't like horror movies. And I was basically polling my family, surveying who would take us to see, and no one wanted to take us to see it. So I forgot about it, so to speak. And then a couple of years later, in 1979, I believe it was on television on a late night movie, and I got to see it. And I'm kind of glad I didn't see it, because I had nightmares at 11 at that point when I saw it. Yeah. So it probably was definitely not meant for a 9-year-old. And I remember we'll get into the whole. We'll get into the whole movie, and I don't want to, to go here and there. But just saying, the rape scene, the something which I had at that point never seen before, even though in Saturday Night Fever, by the way, there was a rape scene in the backseat of a car. But and the biting of the animal's head off, the bird's head, I've never seen anything like that, especially at 11. So yeah, 2 years before I was even less ready, but I remember being a nudge about it and trying to convince someone in my family to take me to go see it, and everyone said no. So and they made the right call. Everyone always says the 70s, everybody was so reckless and did these crazy. No, parents still knew what was right and what was wrong. Listen, the Saturday Night Fever call was probably a bad call because I've never heard pussy and other ethnic slurs so much in my life. That movie, but that was because we were from Brooklyn, and that was in Brooklyn, and that movie's an institution. It's almost like you have to see this. This is part of being from Brooklyn. Saturday Night Fever, but The Hills Have Eyes. That's some grindhouse trash movie. From what people would say back then, and to this day they still say grindhouse. No one would take me to see it. And then 2 years later, see it on TV. And I saw a tame, an edited version. So then I finally, in renting in the early 80s, I saw the full deal 1981 or 82 on VHS. And again, I'm a teenager at that point, but still nightmares, to be honest with you. It gave me a little bit of nightmares.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully maybe that's a lesson for new movie makers making trailers. If you add dancing to it, you help people have a stronger case. If someone was just dancing out in the desert for like the first half of 30 seconds in that trailer, maybe you had a case, and maybe it would have played out worse for you. Michael
Berryman in the Saturday Night Fever suit.
That would have been
awesome.
That's a feast for the senses, I guess.
I was thinking more maybe Papa Jupiter would be the dancer.
And you guys know what's funny? Sure. You guys know what's funny is the next time I saw Michael Berryman was twice in 1 year in 1984. Is I saw him in Weird Science as one of the biker gang guys, and I saw him in Smoking in the Boys Room video for Motley Crue. And so again, and you can't miss him. And Michael, to this day, God bless him, he must be in his 70s, because he was a young old man back then because of his condition. He was in his 20s in The Hills Have Eyes, but he looked like 45. And so today he still looks the same. I mean, you would see him and you recognize that guy, especially if you have 70s, 80s pop culture thing going on. You know who Michael Berryman is. I'm shocked when some people are like, where's that guy from again? I'm like, seriously? You don't know where that guy's from? There's like 3 or 4 iconic things I can name him from. You don't forget that guy. And from what I'm saying, he's a very nice man in real life. So
he was in Devil's Rejects.
He was in that too, but
no, I'm just saying since we did that episode,
let's forget that ever happened.
Sorry. I like to remind Nate that we made him watch that movie. Well, cool. Well, look, we're excited to have you back. We've been looking forward to this episode. But before we get into the episode, let's talk about this week's let's get into our debate question of the week.
Bid our father, the Sea King, rise from the depths full, foul in his fury. Black waves teeming with salt foam, to smother this young mouth with pungent slime.
Now, Nate, The Hills Have Eyes.
Yes.
I struggled to come up with a good debate question. I'm curious what you have. Because you come up with some pretty interesting questions. I'm wondering what you have in store for us to talk about this movie.
Yeah. So for this one, the main premise is there is I'm generously going to say ragtag group of people living in the desert. That's the nicest way I could possibly put it. Mm-hmm. There's a ragtag group of people hanging out in the desert. I guess the story goes that the insane son of a guy who lived near that same land, got a wife, and they had a bunch of kids, and they're all inbred and they're grabbing people, and it's a total nightmare, right? So I was thinking, what if we grabbed some classic horror characters and made our own little ragtag group? Okay. I wonder who everyone would pick, because we have Kevin here, so I'm already just going to call Cropsy just right off the bat. Cropsy's in my desert crew. So no matter what, I would like to see what horror movie characters from other movies do you think would fit in to Hills Have Eyes really well?
So this is like make your own.
Build your own hills have eyes. Build your own hills have eyes.
All right. So you're taking Cropsey first.
Cropsey would be great in here. I think Cropsey would do well. He'd be the caretaker for their little desert plot, probably, making sure the campsite's all clean, maybe cleaning out some caves. Okay. I think Cropsey would be very valuable here.
Okay.
What about you, Mitch?
Oh man. A part of me wants to pick Predator because he can camouflage. And I feel like he understands, he knows how to survive. He knows how to set traps, hunt. That's his whole thing.
Sure. Yeah.
You're going to need food resources are scarce. You're going to need someone who can, handle these traps, catch these people, all that, right? I don't know how to do that shit. So yeah, I need the Predator to come and do that.
Okay. I feel like that's cheating, but okay, fine. The Predator.
Hey, you didn't. How's that cheating? You didn't say.
Isn't the Predator more of a jungle person?
He can hunt. You can hunt in other locations. Yeah,
Is there like a desert camp?
He hunted in the jungle and in the urban jungle of New York. So,
okay,
I think he's shown to be versatile. Yeah. Jesus. Kev, what about you? Who would be your first pick in this? Who?
Probably the one who's always that pain in the ass, who was always reoccurring in the Wrong Turn movies. Three Finger.
Oh, okay.
Right.
Yeah, that's a good one.
The guy who's like that little, he looks like the Crypt Keeper meets I'm trying to think. He's part of obviously that hillbilly clan, but he was always that annoying, dangerous one who always had some knife on him, but and that sick laugh and stuff. And he looked like an old man Muppet. You remember the Three Finger character?
Yeah, totally. He would be kind of like a patriarch of the group.
He would be like he's another one. He is almost like the Michael Berryman, I guess, of that clan, the Pluto of that clan. The just the bizarre looking one, and not the strongest one and not the biggest one, but the most disturbing one and frightening. And obviously Three Finger was much more makeup and prosthetics. But he was always he's always chasing you around. He's almost like the leprechaun of that one. You can't seem to kill him. He's in every Wrong Turn. The only reoccurring character in all six, I believe. Was it 6 Wrong Turns? I believe.
Yeah, seven. I believe. Yeah, 6 or 7.
Was there 7? I only knew.
Well, there's a new one coming out called. No. There's a new. Wow. Hold on. There's a new one called The Foundation. That I don't believe has been released yet. Wrong Turn, The Foundation. It's supposed to be the last. It's a reboot or the 7th installment of The Wrong Turn. It should be. I think it was delayed, obviously, because of this year. But believe it or not, Matthew Modine is the star of it. You guys know who Matthew Modine is, right?
Yeah, of course, Matthew.
So that's a pretty big name to have. So I don't know if this was going to be a big deal. But I think it got delayed. And yeah, it's called, I'm looking it up now. Yeah, I'm looking it up now. Wrong Turn, The Foundation. Yeah, Matthew Modine's the star of it. The film is a reboot in the 7th installment of the Wrong Turn film series. So I don't know. It's probably been delayed because of COVID. Okay. So I'm looking forward to seeing that. Matthew Modine's a pretty big name. So obviously it's going to be more than some piece of shit. You know what I mean? Like the last 3 have been, by the way.
Yeah. Well, and you have the built-in nickname, the Desert Leprechaun, already for your character. That's impressive. It's catchy nickname along with the characters. That's a solid one. Well, when you're in the desert, it's not really a hospitable place for humans, right? And so my pick is not a human. It is the tire from the movie Rubber.
What? Wait, you're giving me shit for the Predator and you're going to pick a tire?
In the movie Rubber, a tire is just going along, just murdering people. And imagine the laughter in a seat. People are back in theaters in a packed theater on a midnight showing, and you have a literal tire chasing one of these teen kids down the hill, chasing them in My Hills Have Eyes movie. So yeah, I'm going to go with the tire from Rubber. Would fit perfectly. It could even be a stealth move. Oh, there's just a tire laying down, in the middle of the desert somewhere, and then you just get killed from behind. I mean, hide in plain sight. It would be the perfect cover. The Rubber tire might be a better Predator than Predator in this film. So there you go, man.
I am beyond words. I don't know how to even. Rubber, really? You're gonna
Kevin, have you seen Rubber?
No, I've never seen it. No.
Oh, okay. Well, I just explained the entire premise. It's a sentient tire who's killing people.
Yeah, it's not a deep movie.
It's a horror comedy. It's a horror comedy more than a straight horror.
He didn't ruin like Schindler's List or something for you.
Thank God.
You picked the worst possible movie to ruin the ending. I don't think Schindler's.
I don't know. Sorry.
Who's yours?
Well, look, we'll get into this specifically.
Are you gonna pick Alien and Predator? What are you gonna go with
I debated, but look, that's just bringing in conflict that you don't need. We know the dynamic doesn't work.
You want a cohesive mutant family.
Look, we're gonna get into specifics about this particular thing, but we did see one character in The Hills Have Eyes that was extremely effective. And that's why I'm bringing Cujo.
Okay.
Cujo would be fantastic as a hunting partner. Dogs are best friends as well. So me, I'm an animal.
That's
look, as the animal person in this group. Well, you and me anyway, because I know Kevin's also an animal person. Yeah. I would go Cujo.
I'd be worried. So, the premise of this film is that, hey, the mutant kind of family is running out of food and
they eat
really
dogs.
hungry.
They eat dogs. Yeah, they eat dogs.
I would be worried that Cujo would get really hungry and just eat you. That would be my worry.
Yeah, look, high risk, high reward, Nate. I don't know.
Okay. It would definitely cover a weakness in the group to have a dog helping you. That's for sure. They could have used the dog in this instance for sure. So that is fair. Yeah.
Kevin, your second pick.
Does it have to be an animal, an object?
No, it could be any horror movie.
I picked a tire. It could be literally.
Well, yeah. Well, you threw me when you said the tire. I'm like, oh, now we're doing objects. I thought we did persons, objects, and pets.
It's word association day. No, anything you want, Kevin.
Well, it's funny because probably even the wrong turn owes a nod to Hills Have Eyes in a way. You could say Texas Chainsaw Massacre, but families whether they're in an off the beaten path, broken down house in the country or in the mountains or in the hills, it's all the same thing because it's cannibalism and it's inbreeding and stuff like that. I guess country or mountain, it's all kind of the same thing, right? Just a different location in the States. But obviously Hills Have Eyes, and we'll get into it, was due to like an atomic bomb or bomb explosion, experimental things with the government, with the military, and obviously that wasn't the case from Wrong Turn, or Texas Chainsaw. You really like to get to the bottom of why they were so fucked up, and you never really did. I would probably say, let me see, another character that could be embedded into that movie from a different franchise or even a single movie. I'm trying to see. I was going to go with Grizzly from 1976 since they're in the
Grizzly.
Well, some sort of a bear can live in the mountains, but mostly a bear is more in the woods. Because I'm trying to think. Obviously, the funny thing is about The Hills Have Eyes. Outside of bringing the German Shepherds from the outside, there weren't any animals in that because I don't think they would have survived because of the radiation that was there. I think all life was killed except, we'll get into it. Yeah. But that's what I'm thinking. I guess we can play fantasy and say if they had an animal there.
There were rattlesnakes and tarantulas. I think those were the only ones that were still somehow there. So yeah.
Right. So maybe Anaconda would live there or something. Or have something like that. I'm trying to think of something because I'm trying to play the game by the rules where something that would survive there. Like in other words, I don't know how a tire would do there, Nate. But
the tire doesn't need food. That's why it's
that's true. Maybe I'll go with Attack of the Killer Tomatoes. Maybe it's got tomato.
That makes as much sense as the tire.
I'm surprised Mitch didn't pick the car from Maximum Overdrive.
Where would you get the gas, Nate?
That's true. Yeah, it's true. Where would you get? Well, they had the one gas station. If you remember,
they ran out. I don't.
That's true, and they ran out of gas. That's a good point.
That's why tire is like an infinite resource somehow. I'm not sure how that works.
How do I mute you, Nate? I'm just gonna.
What about the goat? What about the goat from The Witch? That would be a good one.
A goat? See, I think they would eat any. You guys ever see the? I'm dating myself here. 1990, there was a movie called The Freshman with Matthew Broderick and the guy who played the Godfather, Marlon Brando. I don't know if you guys ever seen that. And basically, they were kidnapping exotic animals and taking them to this place. And it's a big scene where they kidnap a Komodo dragon, and they have him in the car. And the dragon threw up in the car, and then the dragon got loose and ran through a mall, and people were screaming and stuff. This giant Komodo dragon. It was a funny scene, but a Komodo dragon would probably be something you would think that would be. I don't know if they never had a horror movie with a giant Komodo dragon, even though a giant Komodo dragon can eat a goat. It's taking down deer, and those things are pretty, their bite is deadly, a Komodo dragon. I'm trying to think of a giant animal or dangerous animal that would live in the desert. I guess I'm trying to plug in.
There was Komodo dragons in Skyfall, not exactly a horror film, James Bond.
Was it?
I do remember, there's like the Komodo dragon pit, if I remember correctly.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, you're right. Right. Because besides that, like a desert thing would be snakes and scorpion, like a giant scorpion or something like that. Yeah, a scorpion would be something in the desert.
Oh well, you're gonna throw the Scorpion King.
The Scorpion King. Yeah,
you put the Rock Scorpion King.
The Scorpion King he can live right next door to the Hills Have Eyes people.
They're probably neighbors.
They could be neighbors.
Like one cave over.
That's the Scorpion King has one layer over from Hills Have Eyes people.
Hey, I couldn't notice. I smelled what you were cooking. Is that dog? Yeah, that's awesome. One of the lines of dialogue from this.
Well, doesn't the Scorpion King went on to have like a bunch of different ones with different people starring?
Yeah.
So I'll say, why not? The Scorpion King lives in the area. We'll just say that.
That's awesome.
They have a neighborly feud.
Oh yeah, that feud can escalate quickly.
Now, Nate, do you have someone in mind for a Mrs. Jupiter to your Papa Jupiter? I'm curious.
Oh God.
Oh man,
I've got one locked and loaded. If you don't,
go for it. Yeah, you go for it.
Annie Wilkes is who I would be bringing. I mean,
Annie.
I think she would make a home for anywhere you're living. Super loyal, so long as you're loyal. I mean, it's and she's good with a sledgehammer. I just if you're thinking if you need someone to help you survive in the desert, I feel like Annie Wilkes would be the best. I mean, none like Sherry Moon Zombie's not helping you out here. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Sherry Moon Zombie's like, look, I'm so skinny, no one's gonna want to eat me in the desert. Maybe that's her power. Or
Tara Reid from Bus Party or Bus Ride to Hell.
Bus Party to Hell.
Bus Party to Hell.
Yeah.
God, it was so.
Okay, if I'm going with the Mrs. Jupiter here, dang, that would be. I would almost pick Sherry Moon Zombie from Devil's Rejects just so I could put her in this desert so she doesn't have to interact with anyone ever again. That's my pick.
All right,
Sherry Moon Zombie from Devil's Rejects.
Kevin's there. Who would be your Mrs. Mama Jupiter?
Normally I would say Hillary Clinton, but I don't know who I'm going to go with.
She's used to the finer things. I don't know.
Sure.
She's not going to do well in it. She's a New York person. She's not going to do well in the desert.
Well, she's not really a New Yorker.
That's
transplant. But I would say who would fit in good there. If she had lived, let's pretend she's alive, Luna Vachon would have been perfect for the Mrs. Jupiter.
Oh yeah,
like from wrestling. You guys know Luna, right?
Yep.
Mitch does.
I do. Nate does.
Luna, yes. She had a kind of apocalyptic look, if you remember Mitch, right?
Yeah.
So, Luna Vachon. If you even pull up a picture of her, you'd be like, oh, she's perfect.
Yeah,
Papa Jupiter would be like, oh my God.
She definitely so Nate, to help you. She when her normal wrestling attire, you would have thought she had just stepped off set from Mad Max.
Yes.
I mean, she would fit into any sort of post-apocalyptic.
Is it her or is it Tina Turner and Thunderdome? Which one's better in that instance?
Oh, Luna Vachon, I think. And also with the gravelly voice, I'm sure Papa Jupiter would think that was a turn on, that she had had kind of like a sick Kathleen Turner thing going on. Like, wow. Awesome.
Normally calling someone a sick version of someone, but like, oh, I'm a sick Kathleen Turner. Okay. I'll take that backhanded compliment.
If Kathleen Turner was really, really down with the flu, like she would sound like that.
That's high praise.
Yeah, it's high praise.
All right. Well, look, you for those listening, you let us know who you would pick, or you can let us know who had the best crew. We may post this up on Twitter, and I'll let people vote as well. I'm curious who had the best crew. I want to see people just dunk on you for picking rubber
A tire.
Rubber tire.
Yeah.
The tire is so stealth. It's like Metal Gear Solid with this tire. Just the tire on the ground. It pops out. You're dead.
Let us know at TexasPodcastMassacre@gmail.com, TXPodMassacre on Twitter, and Texas Podcast Massacre everywhere else. With that said, let's get into this week's movie of the week, The Hills Have Eyes.
They wanted to see something different, but something different saw them first. The hills have eyes.
Mister, don't take your family back in that area. The silver has been gone for 40 years now. Besides, there's nothing back in there but animals.
We're lost. The old creep told you not to get off the road.
What began as a vacation ended as a nightmare.
Hell to pay now.
What was that?
She thought she knew what the world was all about, but nothing prepared her for this. The hills have eyes.
Oh, you going with my baby?
Get out of the way, Dick.
A mother fighting for her child loses it in the worst possible way.
I hit him with a tire iron and I split his face wide open. That was a bad mistake. I come back for you later, girlie. Why are you doing this?
The story of an American family who lost everything except the will to survive. Murdered, raped, burned, but not beaten. The hills have eyes. The story of one family's refusal to die.
I'm gonna get those animals.
The hills have eyes. A night of terror, a day of vengeance where no one was spared. No one.
Kill the babe! Kill me!
They fought back. Anything was a weapon. The family dog to the family car.
It's working!
The Hills Have Eyes. The most shocking, terrifying film you will ever see, by Wes Craven, writer and director of The Last House on the Left. The Hills Have Eyes. The lucky ones died first.
I mean, that's such a great tagline. That's
awesome.
so good.
Yeah, the lucky ones die first.
So the problem is, Nate, I need to figure out how I can share. Like, I know I can do it in Zoom, but I need to start sharing the trailer with you up front when we do these, because the great thing about this trailer is that every time they say the hills have eyes, the logo comes up front on the video, but also these like cut out eyeballs just like fly towards you on the screen each time.
Yeah, it's all
and they are the cheapest looking. Like those did everything else about this movie aged well. Not those eyes. It is like.
It's got that retro feel. Like again, if you live through it, I remember it as a kid. I thought that was amazing, And now, obviously now you get spoiled by technology. And let's be honest, even 20 years ago that would have looked cheesy. Oh. But this is how many years? What is this now? 40? How many years ago? 44 years ago.
43 years ago, 1977. Yeah.
43. Wow. I think summer of 77 it came out.
Yep.
And July 77 to be accurate. But so, yeah, I mean, it's just a lifetime ago, literally, for so many people. And back then, though, it was all about the guy delivering almost like a promo in wrestling. Mm-hmm. It's that guy's voice. He did a lot of them. You guys don't know, of course, the 80s guy and the 90s guy who does the movie trailers, that famous, they even Seinfeld did a spoof on it with the guy doing the promos.
Well, no, they do the fake trailers, same voice. Yep.
That guy in the 70s, though, the one who did Hills Have Eyes would do the same for Smokey and the Bandit, Jaws, or everything, Close Encounters of the Third Kind. So that guy had quite a voice. I don't know. I wish I had his name, but that guy's voice. Every time I think about the 70s and movies, I think of that guy.
Yeah, we've talked about it a few times, and it particularly when we bounce around different decades. But just how much the style of trailer sort of changes within each decade. And I don't know, I enjoy the older trailers much more than the newer ones. I love the old sort of retro voice talking and the way it's cut, and it's all this kind of, it has this sort of like, I guess retro feels the right word for now, but I prefer that versus, like, I don't know, some of the newer ones, they give away too much because there's no one talking over and sort of voicing over a little bit. It's almost like they're just letting the movie scenes in the trailer do that, and I feel like that ends up spoiling more than they intend to. Because this trailer is like longer than most of the ones we play on here, and yet somehow it doesn't give you near as much as newer ones.
No, it's a pretty long trailer for the trailers are pretty long. They weren't not too many teasers back then. It was a full-length trailer every movie. I couldn't even tell you ever seeing a teaser. You saw a teaser on television late night at 3:00 in the morning, but in the movies, you got the full trailer where you pretty much knew what the movie was about. Yep. You know what I mean? There was no like that. You got a lot of scenes there and a lot of characters there shown in that trailer. So you're going in completely knowing what this was, instead of, I still don't get the concept. The trailers were long traditionally in the 70s and the 80s pretty too. I think they started cutting back on trailers years ago. And I think also they don't want people to, the key, I think, is like anything else. You don't want people to have too much, right? Or it kind of spoils the situation,
Yeah, no, totally agree.
Yeah.
Totally agree. Look, before we get deeper into this episode, I have Lisa here with me to talk about this episode's sponsor, Shudder.
Hey, everyone. I'm so excited to be back for a hot minute here to be talking to you about Shudder.
Like, I'm excited because, Shudder's doing 61 days of Halloween. That's double the Halloween, Lisa. I've done the math. It checks out. And, they have really cool exclusives like Color Out of Space, which is bonkers. And it has Nate's fave, Nick Cage.
Get in the cage.
Boom. Glenn Danzig's Veronica from the Misfits. So Misfits fans rejoice. And Scare Me with Aya Cash. So that's Stormfront from The Boys. Plus, you have access to a whole bunch of unique collection of original films, series, horror classics, blockbuster hits. It's a horror fan's dream. But, Lisa, I think even as an unsuspecting victim, I think you found some stuff that you kind of like, right?
Yeah. So I definitely, unsuspecting victims fans, don't worry. They also have shows and movies that we can enjoy as well. Bram Stoker's Dracula, which is one of my favorites. A History of Witches, which is a great series. And Stan Lee's Lucky Man. And it's super easy for me to watch while I'm on maternity leave right now. I can watch it from all of my devices, my Apple devices, Android, Xbox, Amazon Fire, and Roku. So if you have a device, you have Shudder.
Yeah, and Nate and I have had Shudder since they started, and we absolutely love it. We know you will too. Normally it's $5.99 a month, $56.99 a year, but special offer. If you go to shudder.com, that's SHUDDER.com, and you enter the promo code TPM, you'll get 30 days of horror for free. That's TPM, like Texas Podcast Massacre. That way they know we sent you. At shudder.com, SHUDDER.com. Get you some free horror right in time for Halloween. You're going to be set. You're going to thank us, and we hope you enjoy it. Okay, so Nate.
Yeah.
Why don't you go ahead and tell us about tell us about the facts of this movie.
Yeah, The Hills Have Eyes.
I think everyone who listens to the trailer knows what this movie's about.
Yes. So this movie came out July 22nd, 1977. Coming in at a tight 90 minutes. This movie is on Shudder, as are tons of other good movies that we always do. The budget for this was anywhere between $350K and $700K. And in the box office, it made $25 million. Pretty good for a small film. And obviously Wes Craven's career, took off right after, Last House on the Left. So let me get into Wes Craven just to give you a kind of a hint give you a feel of how this movie came about. So Wes Craven did Last House on the Left in 1972, right?
Yep.
It's a fairly shocking movie still. These are not the type of movies that I normally would like, so I had a hard time getting through it, but I did watch it because it's obviously it's one of the first, the 70s, there's horror films and, in the 30s and 40s, the Universal stuff like Kevin was talking about. Then in the 50s, you kind of got, huge giant atomic creatures. You got Godzilla, you got them, you got all kinds of stuff. 60s, you got your Gothic stuff comes back with Dracula, all kinds of stuff, right? Then in the 70s, Last House on the Left is like, okay, the shit got real. Last House on the Left, Black Christmas, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, totally different type, like kind of a grittier filmmaking, right? So he did Last House on the Left, and then he did a movie that it wasn't known at the time, but he directed a pornographic film called The Fireworks Woman,
right?
In which essentially, I guess, a brother and sister are having sex a bunch. He directed the film as
I've got so many questions. We may have to do a bonus thing where we do a deep dive on just that. But
so it's a pornographic X-rated movie where he directed the film under the pseudonym Abe Snake. Mm-hmm. So I guess that's a great porn director
Kevin,
name.
Abe Snake, would that be a great wrestling name?
Yeah,
Abe's. Yeah, that was his porn name, right?
Exactly.
Abe Snake is cool. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if you saw if that was like Jake the Snake's like son shows up in WWE today, Abe Snake would. I mean, are you popping for that, or is that like?
I'm thinking of naming my first son Abe.
There you go. Oh, there you go.
Tagline for that movie: What happens when a brother and sister break the ultimate taboo? So there's that. Apparently Wes Craven had edited some other pornographic films, but this is the only one he directed, and he used the money he made doing this film to help finance The Hills Have Eyes. So nice. It's a long and winding road, but it all comes back to The Hills Have Eyes at this point. So yeah, $350K to $700K in the budget. They were filming, 100 degrees in the desert for weeks. So kind of a Texas Chainsaw Massacre-esque filming scenario there. In the 70s, people did not care.
No.
These are not like huge actors or anything. No one cared. They're just in the desert in the huge heat all the time. You can see them sweating and other things like in the film. Like it's, they were definitely there on location. Obviously Wes Craven, passed away about 5 years ago, but have to mention obviously the classics, all 4 Scream movies, Wes Craven's New Nightmare, Mitch's favorite, Nightmare on Elm Street, The People Under the Stairs.
That's a classic.
This might be the person we've done the most movies directed by. We've done The Hills Have Eyes. I guess he didn't direct Nightmare on Elm Street 3. I guess it was only his character.
I keep thinking
or two.
Yeah.
Or two. Yeah.
I keep thinking he directed Wishmaster, but I guess he produced Wishmaster.
I believe so. Yeah. I didn't know that he did a movie, and maybe one day you guys will want to do it when you see it, and maybe we could talk about it. It's not very famous, but it was Sharon Stone's film debut. Movie with Ernest Borgnine about murder in the Amish community called Deadly Blessing. It was really good horror film in 1981. Ernest Borgnine and Sharon Stone's debut. And it was a really a cult type of thing. It was kind of like devil worshiping going on in the Amish community in Pennsylvania. It was an interesting film. It was really good. It's available now on Blu-ray. And another interesting movie he did was a girl who's I've become kind of friendly with on Twitter, Christy Swanson, was in Deadly Friend. I don't know if you guys ever saw that.
Yes, I have seen that one.
I haven't seen that one. Okay.
Yeah, that's a good one too, and it's that's an interesting film. but weren't box office hit, not even close to box office. It's still probably money losers. But I forget sometimes that Wes did those movies because he gets so known. Because let's be honest, he could just bank it in on his legacy, Scream, Hills Have Eyes, and Nightmare on Elm Street, and then done. He doesn't have to even mention anything else he's done. Like his bombs are irrelevant. The Freddy Krueger and the Hills Have Eyes clan people, and again the Scream character and Ghostface. I mean, my God, how many times can you strike lightning in a bottle? So yeah, but he had his share of bombs. But I liked Deadly Blessing a lot, and maybe you guys can check it out one day. I think you'll really enjoy it.
Okay, yeah, we'll have to add that to the list.
On the list. You had me at Amish. So.
It's because the Amish people are such peaceful people, and to see them in this occultist and some behind the scenes sorcery and evil and some animal sacrifices, and Sharon Stone looks smoking hot at I believe age 19 or 20 she was there, brand new actress on the scene, but you could tell even when you see her, like, oh my God, that's Sharon Stone. And a couple other people who were in that film too. I believe there was another young starlet. One of them was married to one of the Beatles, I think, Ringo Starr's wife. But yeah, I remember, again, I went to there was nothing to do as a young kid but go to the movies in the late 70s, early 80s. And in 1981, I was allowed to go to movies by myself at that point because I was 12 or 13 and saw the trailer, Deadly Blessing. I was hooked, but I couldn't get into a age of 17 and up film. So again, I had to wait for it to come out a year later on VHS. So
yeah, I just looking over his movies. I mean, yeah, Wes Craven's probably the horror director that had the most impact on me, being we've always told the stories by my brother and sister making me watch Nightmare on Elm Street when I was little to scare me into not being a little shit. But but yeah, Scream,
unsuccessful.
And then yeah, right now I'm still a little shit. I'm just a big shit now. And Nate, there's also your favorite, which we'll add on the list soon, Vampire in Brooklyn.
Oh God!
You pulled my move on me. I have seen Vampire in Brooklyn.
Oh, we all have, Nate. No one just likes to admit it.
Unfortunately.
Yeah. So
I do like Wes Craven. Wes Craven, look, he took risks. He started his career. I mean, Last House on the Left in this movie, on the rougher side, right? Then he started to figure it out with getting it a little bit more mainstream, but keeping an edge, right? And so he started real rough, and then he kind of smoothed it out, but it still stayed, threatening, like the type of thing he would do, right? So definitely, obviously, one of the horror director icons. Tagline for this film: just keep telling yourself it's only a film. It's only a film. Mitch, that sounds familiar.
Yeah,
nice.
So we got that. Well,
I'll be honest, guys. When I come on this thing, I say it's only a podcast. It's only a
that's
exactly.
Right. That's right.
Yeah,
that's what I do.
Wes Craven had the idea. So, like I said, he started out rough, right? He's doing X-rated movies. He's doing Last House on the Left, which had started as an X-rated movie, and then turned into a horror film.
That's true. Yeah.
And so he's in this movie. He's like, hey, let's just try to kill the baby. Let's see what happens. and the crew was just like, yeah, if you do that, we're just going to not work in this terrible hot desert anymore, which we already shouldn't be in. He's like, okay, we'll keep the baby alive. So does the baby die.com? The answer is no on this one. So that's good. But Wes Craven was thinking about it. That tells you everything you need to know about what was going on in this movie.
I mean, he was going to go full in on the cannibal side. So
this film, even what we did see was cut substantially to remove the X rating it initially got from the rating.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. So we got that. Obviously, Texas Chainsaw Massacre is a huge inspiration for this film, right? It's a family of cannibals in a kind of inhospitable place, taking advantage of people driving in from out of the area, right? So it's even got the same kind of gas station dude, a little bit different character, obviously, but there's like a gas station location. It's very similar, but I think it's a different enough take where
you can't call it a rip, but you can't call it a rip.
It's not a rip off. Exactly. It's influenced by, but it's doing its own thing. And obviously we named our podcast after Texas Chainsaw Massacre, so we like it, but this stands on its own, I think. So I would say definitely different enough film. and definitely still worth watching. Actually, a double feature of this and Texas Chainsaw Massacre is like
surprised that's never been done, to be honest.
Yeah, do you want to feel like really grimy after watching some 70s movies?
Gosh.
These are the two movies you want to go back to back.
Give them a bar of Safeguard soap after that one.
Yeah, exactly.
Or throw in or do a Tourist Trap instead of, and
that's a good one too.
Tourist Trap would be great.
That way, instead of cannibalistic mutants, you have psychedelic mannequins. It's
and another guy with a voice that will haunt your dreams, right?
There you go.
Yes.
Like these guys with these voices that they go into, like just all of them. I guess in the 70s there was a lot of smokers, obviously. So that's
exactly.
what affected the vocal cords clearly.
So in this film, there's not the actors and actresses. We got a couple. I got to mention Dee Wallace, right? This is early in the Dee Wallace canon. She had been in Stepford Wives, and then that's two great movies to start with.
Yes.
She obviously went on to be in Cujo, your pick for the debate question. Mitch, she was obviously Mary in
The Howling, right? The Howling.
Yes, and she's in The Howling. So she's in a bunch of really good movies. She's still doing movies. She was in Critters, Mitch, your favorite.
Oh, yes. I saw that in the movies, 1984. I saw that.
Yeah. So Critters, she was in Critters Attack, the last year Critter movie. That's right. Critter movies are still happening.
Oh, I didn't even know that. Okay.
She was also in Mitch's favorite movie, 3 from Hell. God damn it. Which I know you're a huge fan of. I had seen her a couple of years ago. She's in a movie called Red Christmas that I saw. That was actually pretty solid. And she's in the kind of she's in the Rob Zombie universe. She was also in Lords of Salem. She was like one of the witch ladies.
The one Rob Zombie movie Nate likes.
The one, yes. There's only one, and that is it. That's the only one.
There can only be one.
There can only be one.
There can only be.
Surprisingly, it's Lords of Salem.
Yeah, that's the Highlander of the Rob Zombie cinematic universe.
Good gosh.
We also got Michael Berry, but we have to mention Michael Berry in
of
this. He was born with hypohydrotic ectodermal dysplasia. It's a condition where he has no hair, no fingernails, no teeth, and no sweat glands.
Wow.
Always great when you're doing weeks and weeks of filming in 100 degree in the desert for this movie. No sweat glands. That is crazy.
No wonder why he was pissed off. Jesus.
Yeah, I know. He is also in the Rob Zombie cinematic universe. He was in Devil's Rejects. He was the mutant biker leader, I believe.
By the way, guys, so you know, and more enticing to see it, he is also in Deadly Blessing, Michael Berryman.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah, there you go.
Yep, he's in Deadly Blessing. He's one of the Amish.
Yeah, he was also in Lords of Salem. So we got everything there.
Mm-hmm.
He was in the Devil's Rejects, like I said. He was also his first kind of major film was One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
Yes,
One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
One of the patients.
This movie.
Mm-hmm.
These people are just cranking out some hits. There was a sequel, The Hills Have Eyes Part 2.
Saw that.
I have not seen. I had actually, and this is very surprising, I had actually not seen this movie before all the way through. I had seen the remake, and I think I'd actually have seen like the sequel of the remake too, and I had not seen the originals. Wow. Apparently the second one is terrible. I know it was a shocking gap that we have remedied. So, which is great.
The second one is terrible. We won't get into that whole thing now, but only Berryman returns and a brand new giant character who looked like the Big Boss Man was from wrestling was another character they had. They completely isolated the family itself. There was only 2 brothers in the second one. I think it was 1985. Those Have Eyes 2. It was a piece of trash. It sucked.
Yeah, so that it looks bad. It's rated very badly. He was in Motley Crue's Smoking in the Boys Room, but he was also in Motley Crue's Home Sweet Home.
Yes, that's right.
So there you go.
I was a big Motley fan back then too.
Yeah, and he's still cranking out. I'm looking at his at the movies that he's doing, and he's in a movie in pre-production that's coming out next year called Shovelhead the Movie.
Nice.
So he's still cranking them out.
That's what and I hope the awards come back with live crowds, because you could tell that is going to win some sort of an award. That they should be.
Shovelhead the movie. It's winning something. I don't know what. There's going to be a plaque that says Shovelhead the movie.
Fantastic.
That's going to be like Amadeus is coming back. That's going to be amazing.
Yeah. Fantastic Fest 2022. That's going to be the winner's choice right there.
Exactly.
The people's choice.
Without a doubt.
We reviewed recent Shudder edition, The Shed, in a previous previous episode, but in 2019 he was in Shed of the Dead.
Shed of the Dead.
Mitch,
That sounds like a good album for a metal band.
Yeah, yeah. He's been in. I mean, he's in so many movies. A lot of horror stuff. He even got in the Scooby-Doo action. He was in Scooby-Doo: Curse of the Lake Monster as the character Zombie Head.
I saw that actually. I saw that. I'm not even joking.
That's awesome.
On demand. I saw it. I was like 1 o'clock in the morning. I was watching it.
Yeah, he was in a movie same year called Satan Hates You. Outrage, Born in Terror. He is often the outrage because obviously of his physical differences that he has. Yeah, he's all over the place.
I can't believe you have not neglected to mention he was in the critically acclaimed Double Dragon.
That was the next one. He's the leader, like in the biker gang and Weird Science. He is like the crazy person leader in Double Dragon. Yes.
Yeah.
Also.
Oh God.
He was in a Tales from the Crypt episode that I do actually remember watching. And a variety of other things. Needless to say, this guy makes when he's on screen, you're like, this dude looks weird. You have my attention, right? Like that. Yeah. He's very noticeable. So if you see him in anything, it's easy to tell. There's more people in this movie, but I really don't, we don't have to go into everybody because a lot of people actually stopped acting after they were in this movie. So we'll leave it at that. One other thing I wanted to mention is that, basically on the audition process of this film, most people, because these actors were not well known. Most of them weren't well known even at the time. They were just starting. Some became bigger later. Some stopped acting. Some were, character actors for a long time. Essentially what Wes Craven was looking for in the audition wasn't some of the acting. And we'll go over the character Bobby in the future because that guy's acting was more wooden than the thing in Wicker Man, like the totem thing. It was terrible. But he essentially wanted to know, hey, can you cry on cue?
Oh,
can you cry on cue? Okay, you're in the movie. I don't care what else you can. Can you run up hills and cry on cue? You are in my movie. That was one of the key components to getting people cast in this film, which I thought was hilarious. But very needed. He knew the script because he wrote it, and he knew it would be needed, and it was. But that's just crazy. That what have you acted in before? Don't care. What's your cry like? Show me that. Okay, you're in the movie. Like it's crazy. So that's The Hills Have Eyes, and we'll get into it, I guess. Mitch, what do you want to talk about first here?
Yeah, so I mean, look, this movie we mentioned is 43 years old. You should have seen it by now. If not, pause the episode, go watch it, come back. We're just gonna go straight into spoilers. So, okay, look, let's talk about Grandpa Fred. Grandpa Fred, who owns the gas station. Yes. He is just having a bad day. He is not very effective at warning. He's like, I mean, and he's central to this whole thing. I have a whole thread about Grandpa Fred could have ended this movie at the beginning of it, but here we are, very ineffective at trying to convince them, hey, maybe don't go into the mountains because there's nothing there. Just don't go back. Also very ineffective.
Just say, hey, some people have been robbed going that way.
Yeah.
Just say that.
There's looters out there. Yeah.
There are people living out there that have been attacking people. Just say that.
Yeah.
No, he doesn't say anything.
No.
Everyone dies.
Which I do also like that they thought, oh no, he just doesn't want us to come get the silver. It's like, oh yeah, he's just rolling in silver. At this gas station with 5 drops of gas left and no food.
You got to do this guy. Okay. So this guy, the head of the family, he is an old Cleveland detective dropping N-words. Not a fan of this guy already. Just off the bat, dropping N-bombs when he's the one who can't drive and is terrible. So it's like, wow, you're projecting to the wrong people here. He's terrible, but he's a Cleveland detective who then goes and we're in New Mexico in this one, right?
Yes.
Right? Goes all the way to drags his family all the way up to
Nevada. Sorry, Nevada.
Nevada. Okay.
Yep.
Goes all the way to Nevada, whatever, to get silver from some mine he's never been to, has no idea how to get there. and then he sees a plane fly kind of close to him and then flips out. This guy is the worst dude. How would he have even come close to making it in the Silver?
Did he just hear about
Can't even drive?
Did he just hear about the gold rush like on the History Channel? I was like, oh shit.
Yeah, I don't know.
Let's get to California. Pick up some silver on the way.
Kevin, if I told you your great uncle maybe had a mine somewhere on this small dot on a map, would you just be driving out people to go see that? I mean, what a setup for this film. This guy is terrible.
Yeah, he shouldn't. I wouldn't want him as a detective trying to find my
exactly
my missing cup of coffee. I would want him to find. So.
Maybe
he was a desk cop. He retired as a desk cop for sure. Cannot drive. Can someone explain this to me? Airplanes are flying above him. And that causes him to A, speed up, and B, swerve, and then C, act like there's also an earthquake happening. I don't know what is happening. Like, has he heard of the brakes before? I don't understand how they get stuck in the first place. It is quite a setup. Like they hit like the one tree for like 10 miles and they somehow
I thought the road
hit it.
I thought the road had been bombed or destroyed or something, and that was part of it. But
okay,
you're right.
Okay.
It wasn't very. It was still bizarre. You're right. There is only like one like tree out here. And
you could have told me he was trying to race. Like he accelerated so fast. Maybe he was trying to race the airplane. I have no idea what this guy was doing.
Nate, I don't know. I mean, we've been in a quarantine. Maybe you haven't driven your child around in the back seat screaming.
I have done that.
I have with two. And let me tell you, you'll race anything to get the fuck home and get everyone quiet. So I actually do not fault the dad because everyone's yelling at him about getting on the road. He's just like, I just swear to God, just shut up so I can just do. I don't like him. I understand.
I love how this guy is like been in Cleveland. He's been a Cleveland policeman, for decades supposedly.
Yeah.
But it's like his accent is like Cleveland by way of Tennessee. Like he has the most Southern Cleveland accent I've ever heard. I've heard people from Cleveland. He sounds like none of them. So they got this. I guess Kevin, what are some of your thoughts on these family members here? So we got was it Big Bob, right? Is the dad?
Yeah.
Who are some of your other favorite characters?
The Dee Wallace character. I mean, obviously she was an attractive young lady back then, in her 20s. So she was good to look at. She seemed cool. You didn't want her to get hurt, obviously. Mm-hmm. Then they had the son, the teenage boy. The dog was the two dogs are Beauty and the Beast. It was Beauty and Beast.
Yeah.
The two dogs. So the German Shepherds were amazing actors in this film.
I'm going to say the German Shepherds were the most intelligent characters in the entire film.
I'm telling you, I was very concerned about the dogs from the time I saw them in the car, because I figured, even seeing it, like I said, in 1979, I wound up seeing it. Like I said, we finally got to see it a couple of years later after it was released. Even then, I always worried because in the 70s, they made no bones about killing an animal in the film for shock value. Cat, dog, bird, especially birds. They always like to kill birds in films in the 70s.
Birds got killed quite a bit.
They got killed them all the time. So I always kind of turned my head at those scenes and I go, oh, God, I hope they don't kill the dogs, As a young kid, you have a dog and you don't want to see a dog get hurt. But I was so happy that, obviously one of the dogs, we'll get into it, met their fate in that movie. Yeah. They don't show it, so to speak, but it's implied. And
that dog was a real dead dog. They bought a dead dog.
Right. I heard about that. Yeah. That the dog, it was obviously it was it was supposed to be taxidermied or something like that. I don't remember what the story was, but
it was a real dead dog cut open.
Oh yeah.
They showed. Yeah. Yeah, obviously not the same one.
That was a contract.
And it had died. It wasn't like so clear they didn't. Someone didn't kill it.
Right.
But does the dog die? Absolutely, man. Yes.
But this one. You're right. But then you have the other dog who's much like in the remake is a big part of the hero element of this film. So the dogs were appealing to me, especially the duo. The kids, I think, were You had the husband married to one of the daughters, I guess the son-in-law.
Yeah, Doug. Best son-in-law of all time.
Yeah, Doug. Listen, there wasn't, listen, okay. And listen, it's the 70s. The guy's dropping some, ethnic bombs, but that's just the way it went in those films. Didn't make me really hate the guy. But I would say the father to me was the most expendable emotionally to me. I didn't appeal. The mom I was attached to, like obviously the mom was like a good mom. They weren't hateable characters. They weren't you had a bit of a vested interest because there was only about 5 of them plus the 2 dogs. So it wasn't some big crew of people like teenagers, like 19 teenagers who get killed in Friday the 13th or in Halloween, where it's a family, his daughter-in-law, son, young teenage son, 2 dogs, like, the American family. They did it, a dog and the parents are together and, they're driving across the country. That was Americana in the 70s, going on vacation in a car in a U-Haul or a trailer hitch. That's what it was. I went on those myself with my dad, and my 4 brothers. So you could relate to that. So there wasn't anybody that to me was like, this guy's a jerk. I hope he gets it. You actually and you knew that you kind of needed the father to, even though the father met a bad fate, the father to live because he had the gun and he was the cop and you figure he'd get them out of harm's way. And then when he gets picked off early, we'll get into all this, but you were like, who's going to protect this family now? You know what I'm saying? The Doug, the brother, the son-in-law. Yeah. But the father stepped up. The father was was an alpha male type, an old school John Wayne.
Well, Kevin, let me pitch you this one more bad thing in the category of the dad who I did not care for. This happened on their 25th wedding anniversary. Oh,
I know.
Day of. Who is this guy?
And
this
by
guy,
the way, he was supposed to be 51. I'm 52. Let me tell you how that feels. And to him, and you guys might not see what I look like now, but I can assure you, I look nothing like Bob. Like Bob could be my father. So back then, guys in their 50s looked 70. So it's really interesting. Yeah. He looked like he was an old 50, in my opinion. Somebody told me he's 49. I was like, really? I was like, wow.
His character has heart problems, but what is he going to do?
That was the other thing,
Just go mine some silver. That'll help out.
No, that was the other thing. He was supposed to be retired. Back then, you retired at 50, and back then the perception of being 50 was you were like an old man, literally. But it's such a different ballgame today. As you guys see, a lot of even the heroes in the films and leading guys, Tom Cruise, are well over 50.
Oh, definitely.
Brad Pitt is 55. So it's like, but look at that guy as a lead and you're like, he looks 72 maybe, but he was only freaking 50. That's what blows me away. I was like, yeah, because he was out of breath running like one block. And I'm like,
I know. How is he supposed to mind things?
Right. How? They really portrayed him as like, I'm like, wow. He's like, and again,
he's trying to get Centrum Silver.
Me and my brother Draper laugh about the fact of the age we are now with those fathers in the thing who were almost like helpless because they were so defeated right off the bat because of their age. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, yeah, this guy, I thought he was a big protector. Hey, big Bob with the gun and former cop. And meanwhile, he was the easiest pickings.
Yep.
You know what I mean? He was like the easiest one to pick off.
Doug is Mitch, not the person.
Hold on. I had to say, you mentioned, people might have heard it. You mentioned Centrum Silver. That he was.
I take that.
He was mining for Centrum Silver. That is the only silver this guy has any right going after.
I take Centrum Silver. Holy shit.
This guy should have taken. He might have been alive. He couldn't run. He could run like 100 meters maximum.
I was not at the beginning of this movie. I would not have put my money on the dude that looks like Wolowitz from Big Bang Theory being the one to sort of take the lead on this. Yeah. But here's where we are. So Nate, let's. So we talked about
Wolowitz. Yeah.
Now we have the one. We've talked about the one family. Let's talk about the other family that we have to deal with. Let's talk about the solar system family. We have the Plutos. Mm-hmm. Although I guess that's a first name. Or Jupiter. Jupiter.
Pluto, it's the
Jupiter, and then there's but
Mars.
Is their last name Jupiter? That's what I was trying to figure out.
No. They're all named after planets.
Yeah. So is it Jupiter? Like, because they're like, I'm Papa Jupiter.
Papa Jupiter and Mama Jupiter.
It's Papa Jupe. Papa Jupe.
Papa Jupe. But I don't know the name.
Is it Mars Jupe? Is it Mercury Jupe?
Everyone is like Cher or Madonna. It's only one. Let's just say it's just one name.
Would have been Pluto's got to be the most awkward now because it's like, well, not a planet anymore. So Don't know what you got to do.
Like,
do you rename them now? I know, but do you rename them now? Like, I don't know. No, yeah. So I mean, talking about this.
Hold on. One of the people's names is Ruby. What happened to Ruby?
Should have been named Silver. That would have made more sense.
Ruby, obviously. Ruby. I guess. Yeah, she was the young sister.
No, there's no Silver left, Mitch. That's the whole point. Maybe there's rubies.
Well, there was what? There was Pluto, Mars, Jupiter. Was there Saturn? Was there a Saturn?
No, it's Jupiter.
There's
Jupiter's
Mama
the
Jupiter,
dad.
Papa Jupiter, Jup.
Mars, Pluto, and Ruby.
Weird.
They ran out.
Ruby got the shaft.
Look, these people have been living in the woods forever. I don't think they went through all the planets. They probably just learned a few.
Venus, something. They might have lost a lot of people of their tribe or their little, they're kind of group.
Yeah, they've eaten half the planets by now, just to stay alive.
That's fair. Oh, and there's Mercury. There's who's the lookout guy.
Oh, Mercury. That's right. Yeah, Mercury.
Who the dog just whoops it, Daisy. The little the little stealth push off. It was almost a comedic kill by the dog. It was pretty great.
Most people are going to remember Pluto just because he clearly has a distinct look. But man, Papa Jupe is the creepiest to me.
Oh,
he's insane.
He's got those chiseled, sharp teeth and
his voice too. I mean, his voice in the dark. Tell you one of the things that's scared me, and to this day still gives me a little bit of chills, is when he is yelling outside and the old man, the grandfather, who's his father, is terrified of him. If you remember in the gas station, and he's just making those growls. Yeah. And I'm just like, oh my God, like that was just unsettling. Like, cause you didn't know where he was coming from. Like, and he's stalking his own dad at the gas station, if you remember.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This guy is like the guy, like the cousin from Black Christmas's Billy.
I think even worse. I think even worse. As a matter of fact, I was disappointed to see them not make the role. And the guy, he was a dangerous killer, and it took a lot to kill him in the remake of Hills Have Eyes. The person who played Papa Jupiter, but he didn't get to. He didn't have the role time and screen time that the one in the original had. They just, if you remember the ending of the remake, when he's trying to, they lit him on fire and they couldn't kill this freaking guy. And he ate the mom, if you remember, from the chair. That didn't happen in the first one. But Papa Jupiter was like a major actor and a main character. And, I wish you would have got to know a little bit more about Papa Jupiter, but you kind of did, because the grandfather was telling the cop, if you remember in the gas station before Papa Jupiter pulled him through the window, of he was born with hair all over. He was like a beastly baby. We don't know. It was like something from the devil. And remember, like the devil himself or something. He was evil from the time he was out of the womb. So Papa Jupiter was clearly born. Papa Jupiter was not the effect of nuclear wave, the nuclear react. The movie was interesting because Papa Jupiter was born to this gas station guy, grandpa, and his wife, but there was nothing to do with nuclear waste or anything like that. I don't know. And I think he was such an animalistic type of person. He went off to the hills and bred this family. You know what I mean? Because he couldn't live in society. So it was.
Well, it wasn't even that, right? I mean, this is where I said Grandpa Fred could have had this. This could have all been avoided had Grandpa Fred just finished the job.
Yes, exactly.
He's like,
tried to kill him.
Yeah, he's like, I hit him. I split his face with a tire iron, and then I dumped him in the desert. I was like, oh well, he's probably dead. Like, if you're already going to the trouble of hiding it, just verify. Like, what? Why are you leaving it to chance?
Trust, verify.
Right.
But you guys know what I'm talking about, right? Because to be clear, because of people listening to this, I'm like, well, wait a second. I thought I saw Hills Have Eyes remake. If someone's watching this, I never saw the original. Wasn't this all about? And the whole premise was these testing pattern explosions of the government, and that's how these people became like this. Wait, so the guy with the one who started the Hills Have Eyes was normal, and he was born to two normal parents. Yes, and he was dumped off. He was this evil spawn that they could not handle him. He was like a sociopath. death on top of deformities, and they dumped him out in the desert and let him go off live. But I guess he developed a understanding with his father that he'll come to the gas station, give me supplies, and then I'll never just leave off supplies and I'll leave you alone. I won't kill you. We'll just coexist.
Well, to be fair, he burned down the house and the mom and young baby died.
Yes.
Yep.
So,
but this is years later because
fair.
right. So, but I guess the grandfather knew he had nowhere to go, and this was his life, and that he just had to deal with his animalistic son. And once he had, but the grandfather, if you remember, had a relationship with Ruby, the youngest daughter, would be his granddaughter.
Yep.
She would go see him.
I think that's the reason why he was there.
Yes, possibly that
makes more sense.
Right.
Yeah.
I think that's the only reason he was still there.
Possibly to maybe there was a chance that one of these the other three boys, Mercury and the other two boys were gone, that this young girl was the only family he knew, and he could see her when she comes down. So yeah, I think we're getting like we're probably even saying things that the movie director thought, but there was just no time to put all this in, So I'm thinking the same thing. You have to kind of embellish a little bit, and I think you're right, because people will be like, well, why didn't the friggin' just sell that gas station, get the fuck out of there?
Yeah,
I mean, we all would have done that. I would have did that the day after I dumped the kid off in the cave.
Yes.
I would have sold it. Someone would have got a bargain basement price for that gas station. I would have sold it for 10 cents and got out of there.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Well, no, like my house burned down. Might as well burn down my gas station for the insurance money at that point. I would, So a baby does die in this film, just in the past.
Yeah.
Right. Wes Craven got as close as he could.
He hit his quota.
Yeah, he hit his quota for the movie for sure.
He's like, fine, you won't let me do it. Well, I'm adding it to the backstory.
So Mars is essentially like he's the closest one to Papa Jupiter.
Yeah,
yes, like a Papa Jupiter Jr.
Overall look and capabilities,
and the tallest, the biggest one, so to speak.
Yeah, and then Pluto is just kind of there. That guy, if he's in Hills Have Eyes too, who is the sports surgeon who's working on this guy's Achilles tendon? Because, oh my God, if he's in the Hills Have Eyes too, it's got to be in a wheelchair based on the fight he has with the beast, the dog. Oh my God, that is a lot of Achilles got torn out there.
Yeah. Oh,
I mean, that was some practical effects work.
A lot of Achilles.
A lot of not very well colored blood, very bright red blood.
Yes.
But oh my God, I can't even. Is he on crutches in the second film? What? Like, how is this? How is this happening? I don't know.
Jeez.
I don't know. Okay, so let's get into this plot then, Mitch. So,
I mean, largely, so there's not from a plot perspective, there's not much. It's really a family just getting terrorized.
Yeah, so, Big Bob. So
they all split up to try to do different things.
Yeah, that's the thing. He's like, hey, so, I crashed the car because I'm terrible at driving, and I know it's our 25th wedding anniversary, but I'm just going to leave you guys for a while. Is that cool? Yeah. So he leaves. And then the actual most capable guy, Doug, also leaves. So they leave essentially the two most capable people leave the group stranded. Mm-hmm. I don't know if that was a great move. I would have waited until, well, I guess if you wait till morning, then it's really hot, right? So maybe they thought they would travel when it's cooler. Only thing I could think of, but man, that was
maybe
not a smart move.
Maybe the father had heard the tagline where the lucky ones die first.
He's like, you know what?
Let me get out of here. I can't walk a block without running out of breath, so maybe I should die first.
Exactly.
Let me tell you, it made me feel good about my own health because I can go at least 3 blocks before I'm out of breath. So there you go.
He's like, look, I got 99% of the way to this mine and then realized this is the worst mistake I've ever made in my entire life.
Yeah,
take me.
I'm surprised he didn't just send someone else off instead. Like, what do y'all run back to that gas station?
Well, yeah, the young. What about the teenager? Why didn't he go?
Yeah.
So again,
I would have said the teenager
with one of the dogs.
Yeah, that makes way more sense. So another mistake. He goes to the gas station. A lot of really bad shooting occurs from these characters. Is not accurate. And then, he gets totally kidnapped. The Grandpa Fred gets tormented and murdered pretty brutally.
Oh God.
Yeah. That's a son father. That's a lot of issues were in that kill. Like, ooh, man.
I think Jupiter was channeling what he wanted to do to his own father. That was disturbing because it was in the night, and you would see, you would hear the voice, And you were like, where's that coming from? The car, like behind that rock? And that was that again, that voice. Matter of fact, I've been thinking so much about this, and I didn't want to watch it right immediately again before the show because I had things fresh in my mind. But now after the show, I'm probably going to go watch it again. Mm-hmm. So it's like so funny that because just want to see some of those clips again, even though I've seen it 12, 13 times over the years. But every time I watch it, I always see something I might have missed, which is interesting because it's not that long of a running film. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's a 90-minute film, but man,
90 minutes. But I always find
going on.
I always find like 2 minutes that I'm like, I don't remember that. You know what I'm saying? Like, so I always find something I'm like, oh, I don't remember that scene, or does that edited out or edited in? But again, the kill going after the father was disturbing because, like you said, the father's clutching his chest. He has a heart condition. He's out of breath. He's out of bullets, I believe, too. So he was, he's going to get picked off, but you just didn't know how. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, these people don't kill you right away.
No,
that's
only the lucky ones die first.
Exactly. That's like, okay, well, they catch her. Okay, he's dead. Nah, he's not dead yet. Like, oh, they come at you in the thing. Oh, you're not dead yet. Like
it's not an immediate kill, right?
It's like if the Devil's Rejects was good. It's like that. Like they're toying with you, but it's not like. Yep. It's not necessarily needlessly cruel. Like at first they're just trying to steal their supplies, right? Yes. They're not like it escalates.
And then it becomes for sport. And then it becomes for eating them as well, too.
And then it becomes for revenge, right?
It's almost it's almost like if you went hunting and you completely cursed out the deer before you shot them. I mean, that's all you tormented the animals by name calling them before you hunted them. But it was interesting that you're right. It was first for supplies, then for sick pleasure, then while they're dead. Oh yeah, we eat people, so we'll use them for food.
Yep.
So they got three different elements out of it.
Well, yeah, but then for revenge too.
And for revenge,
that amazing
and for
stealth kill. Yeah, I think where this works for me, where Devil's Rejects didn't, is that I understand the motivations of these characters. So like, obviously for the villain, sometimes a villain, like what's Michael Myers' motivation? He's just insane, right? Okay. Sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't. But for these people, I understood, and you had different people. They weren't all just evil, right? You had Ruby. Ruby didn't want to kill anybody. She was dogs.
I think she had because her grandfather was normal. I think Ruby had an affinity for wanting to be normal and wanting to be like her grandfather. Why are my brothers deformed and bad teeth and or just these the smelly, disgusting? Because even he talked about the stench of them and stuff. The grandfather, like like wild animals, and grandpa lives in a house in a bed and has food in a refrigerator, not hanging from hooks. So like I think she was confused of what she's supposed to be and what she was. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Well, and she's like, take me with you in the very beginning. Which
yes, exactly. She wanted to go, right? Because she saw she can be. There are normal people that come through there.
Yeah,
until her family kills them.
And these people are living feral out in the woods, but that doesn't mean they can't blow shit up, because
they can blow shit up.
Gets blown up in this movie. You got the dad. Big Bob gets blown up essentially.
After being crucified. The car is blown up.
Yeah,
they crucified him. That was terrible.
Which I mean, this dude's heart already is bad. Then you're gonna crucify him, which
that's not good for the heart. I can tell you.
No, that's not good. You don't need to go to medical school. You don't
need doctor in school to know.
I can tell you right now, guys. I take blood pressure medicine. Right here, it says "Do not crucify."
Wow, it's on the label. It makes sense.
It's on the label. It says right there. It's terrible.
Oh my god. Yeah, but So I guess the main thing is, okay, so the family, they split up, right? So Doug, the most competent person in the entire family by a large margin, is gone. The dad, Big Bob, is gone. Mm-hmm. They descend on them and they get, and everyone is just splitting up all the time. I want to ask you about this, Mitch, or I want to ask this to you, Mitch. Bobby, okay? So he goes and chases, the dog runs off because the dog is, I'm assuming, smelling the stench of one of the hell people, right? Goes, gets killed. He sees that. He runs away from no one chasing him, falls, hits his head, and is gone for hours, okay?
Yes.
Then the whole rest of the movie, he decides not to tell them what he saw, thereby warning them. what was up with this character? What was up with this kid? Why did he not say anything? He wanted the women to be gone so he could tell Doug when he came back, but not when women were there. I don't understand what was happening with this dude.
Well, a part of me thinks it's trauma, right? He's just seen his dog like gutted basically before he hit his head. And he does, just my dog's been cat. I mean, he didn't know that it was some hill person that did it. Just my dog.
He saw the dog was
he saw his dog was very much murdered. But maybe I don't know. Maybe this guy doesn't strike me as someone who's been out in the wilderness. Maybe he's like, oh, a bear did it. I don't know. But he was
like keeping it a secret. It was so I didn't understand.
I don't agree with it, but look, if something happened to my dog, I would be clearly distraught as well. I don't know why he doesn't just tell everyone because it's the family dog. It's not, I assume they would also care, but maybe he was trying to spare the women and make them so they wouldn't freak out.
The mom tells a story about how the dog murdered a poodle in Miami.
That's right.
I wrote that quote down.
That's right. I don't know, Nate. I have no good answer.
I don't know. This family seems fine with dog murders. They are totally okay with it.
It was a little like, it was, these dogs.
Yeah. But I mean, there's that. And then they get descended upon. And this scene, the scene it's real tight and claustrophobic inside the trailer RV, right? Trailer thing.
Right.
I mean, you got the rape scene is pretty brutal.
Mm-hmm.
The shooting deaths. I mean, these are some point blank shots. R.I.P. Dee Wallace. She got done dirty, and they were gonna leave with the supplies, but Grandma coming in with the broom is what set it off. That I kind of had to laugh. The grandma hitting them with a broom in some of the weakest attack I've almost ever seen is what started the murder. I mean, that was.
Nate, wow, imagine
what a twist.
Imagine you're playing Mortal Kombat and your two options for fighters are the grandmother with the broom or Tara Reid from Bus Party to Hell with the machete. Who's doing the most damage?
I go the grandma 100%.
Yeah, I mean, it's somehow still more impressive than Tara Reid trying to lift that machete and strike.
I think they made like a paper mache machete just so Tara Reid could lift it up. I don't think it was even a real machete.
No, I wouldn't trust her with a sharp object.
Yeah, the grandma, but you got to admit, the grandma went for it. She saw people getting attacked, and I mean, if you're going to go out, you're going out protecting your family, but that really escalated.
Was there not a pot or a pan or something? I mean, was the broom that's the thing my grandmother would go after us with if we were like, maybe that's just a grandma thing. My grandma would go after us when we were like screwing around and like fighting each other, but we
didn't know, but there's a lot of corporal punishment going on in that family, and that's what that's the grandma's trusty weapon.
It's like the broom has resolved every other conflict in this family. Maybe it'll work here.
I guess so. Kevin, I mean, when you saw this is kind of the shocking, like, oh my God, oh shit, this movie is popping off, right? I mean, the dog does die, which is shocking, but then this happens. I mean, when you saw this initially, what were you thinking? Like, what part stood out to you?
With that particular, with just how everything was starting to unravel.
Yeah, I mean, the trailer scene just generally. I mean, what part stuck out to you? I mean, it's all pretty intense, but
probably the chase down of the dad, like I said, because he felt like he was either going to drop from a heart attack, or then when you thought he was safe, you would hear that voice in the back, the sick Papa Jupe voice tormenting him. That sticks in my head so much that I want to watch the clip again later, and also feel good that I don't look like Bob at 50 years old. And by the way, in fairness to Bob, there was no Just for Men back then, so very good product that they came out with over the years. But and also just the family being basically in that area with the camper and the car, and right in the middle of nowhere. There's nowhere to run. There's nowhere to go. Obviously, you saw that throughout the movie. The difference from that in Texas Chainsaw Massacre was you felt like once they ran through the woods, they could find another house. There was going to be road at some point. You guys remember there was a road at some point which saved that girl's life at the end of Texas Chainsaw. A trucker came by and took her. that was not going to be the case here. You were in the freaking desert, and there was nowhere. You were open terrain. There was nowhere to hide behind. There was a rock or a boulder here or there, but other than that, it's open terrain. Where are you going to go?
Yeah.
So that was the thing, the doom, the impending doom, that even as a young kid at 11, I felt that this same thing. Where can they go? They can go in the mountains and but these people know they're in an unknown element. These people, they're from Ohio or Cleveland or whatever. How are they going to know how to survive in the desert mountains? So again, you thought, and I was just concerned then after the one dog was killed that the other one would be killed. I was so glad it didn't. But I didn't dislike the people in many horror films in the 80s. I was completely disattached from any of the kids being killed from Friday the 13th one, with the exception of maybe one or two girls in some of the films in Friday the 13th. I was indifferent to the cast. As a matter of fact, I couldn't wait for them to be killed.
Right.
And same thing with Halloween. Outside of Jamie Lee Curtis, I had no love for anybody who got killed in that movie. Zero. I had no affinity for anybody. Here, for some reason, maybe because it was a family, maybe because, again, it was this cohesive family, brother, sister, dog, mother, father. I felt a connection that I didn't want them to get killed. And I hated these people, especially after they kidnapped the baby and they killed the mom. Yeah. And they ripped the head off the bird. The heinous acts that went on in that trailer during the invasion, when the pseudo rape occurred and the sexual assault and the killing of the bird and the shooting of the mother, that's when I'm like, oh, I want these guys dead. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? There was no like, they're cool. Oh, I hope Pluto survives. I wanted Berryman dead. I wanted especially Mars dead. And if I ever see Michael Berryman, I'm telling him, I want you so dead, bro. But even
you're
right
that
now,
good, but yes,
you're that good. But I wanted after what they did to that family, because I'm picturing, oh my God, imagine that was my mom, my sister, and I'm an animal lover. Anybody killed an animal, I wanted them dead, especially as a young kid when I saw someone hurting an animal. So they were convincing, and I just thought they were dirt bags. Back then we would call guys who look like that like dirt bags, scumbaggy, like white trash looking, trash people. So you wanted them dead. I had no sympathy. I had sympathy for Ruby. That did the job for me. The young girl, I was on board with her from the time I saw her.
Yeah.
I said, this girl is going to be a good guy in this, so to speak. But I hated that family, and I wanted them all dead, including the mother.
Yeah. I mean, this movie does a great job of, there's layers to these characters, right? I mean, there's enough development that no one is black. It's not so black and white. And I think you have a good point with, one of the things that this movie does very well is that, you don't have what a lot of later horror films have, which is your villain is almost an anti-hero more than it is an actual villain. Your people are wanting Freddy to murder them and have a funny little quip, right? I mean, it's I think newer movies have started to get away from that, which is great. But I mean, this is perfect in this, right? Because you're not cheering for the villain. You're wanting
when he says, "I come back for you later, girly." Ooh,
yeah, it was creepy, and that's the thing. It was a clear cut distinction. There was who was bad here and who was good. It's not like wrestling where I like the wrestling bad guy. No, there's no way you like Mars and Pluto now after the sexual assault, killing the animal, murdering the mother, and going and kidnapping the baby. Now, there's no way you're cheering for them. It's not even the most depraved person's not cheering for them.
I'll tell you who I'm cheering for. Beast. Beast takes care of business.
Beast and Doug is all you need. Doug is, first of all, best son-in-law probably of all time in the history of film.
I'm very, very happy he went on to do The Big Bang Theory. Very happy.
He looks very similar.
Yeah, very continued success, Wallowitz.
That's true. No, this guy, Doug, he's very competent. He's fairly smart. But Beast, I mean, it's MVP of the film. This dog takes out two of the people.
Yeah.
Like 100% alone with no assistance whatsoever.
No weapon. Beast had no weapons.
No.
He was, Beast is the weapon.
He's the lethal weapon.
Yeah, he is, because I mean, this dog is Mitch, have you played Metal Gear Solid 5?
Yes. Yeah.
You have a dog. You have a dog in that, and like you can upgrade the dog. The dog can like hold a knife in its mouth and go after people. I mean, might as well have been Beast. It was
the inspiration
similar.
for sure.
This dog is the most competent person in the movie by far.
Yeah.
And
smartest. Smartest.
I mean, that's why I picked. That's why I picked Cujo. Look, all you need is Beast. He just took care of business.
I feel like Beast is so much more intelligent than Cujo. I feel like Beast
maybe.
Well, in fairness, Cujo had rabies.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would be like
your brain.
You know, in MMA when like a jiu-jitsu guy would go against the sumo, like that would be Beast against Cujo, but Beast would win by like doing some submission or something, right? But yeah, I mean, Beast is one of the top, if not the top horror dogs of all time. I don't even think it's close.
Agreed.
This dog is just single-handed. I want to see a Beast movie spinoff is what I would want to see.
I think so.
That dog would be.
Well, I think, ironically, Beast was up for the character of the Fonz, but it went to Henry Winkler.
Now we had two.
If the dog hit the jukebox, it's punch right through. Like, this dog is just so massive. It'd be, you know.
Now we had two other kills toward the end of this movie. So we have the fight with Papa Jupe and with Bobby, and I'm blanking on the girl's name, her character, but. Where they set the trap with the car. This is
some Home Alone shit.
Yeah.
I mean,
yes, it was very Home Alone
placement.
Yeah.
Wow.
Very Home Alone-ish.
But I did kind of like that it didn't work entirely. You know, there was still a little bit of error, but they got the explosion at the end, which was pretty sweet, pretty epic.
This is like an action movie. There's so many explosions, but they're all impactful. Obviously, like they're big scenes.
Yeah.
But I mean, this is a very low budget 70s movie and they're exploding everything.
Yeah, it's true. I think
like all the vehicles in this movie just explode.
Wasn't
all
it
the vehicles you see?
The girl's name was it Bobby and Brenda?
Brenda. Yeah,
Brenda. Okay, Brenda.
Yeah. Yeah, Brenda gets raped in the movie and then she's like she's you in this movie, Mitch. She gets raped and she is obviously traumatized. And then she is like, oh no, I want to kill them so hard. And she's like, Bobby, you got to go check. You got to make sure this guy's dead. She is like you, Mitch.
Oh, is that what you meant? You started off with, she's like you. She got raped and then I'm like,
no. Sorry.
I was like, where are you going?
I'm setting the scene.
Sorry. Yes.
By the end, she goes from that to, you have to check. You have to make sure this person's dead. I am on board. Like,
finally, someone learns the lesson that the movie should be teaching you.
Yeah, it's a harsh lesson, but yeah, she snapped out of it in record time. I mean, that would be so traumatic. I can't even imagine. And then is very helpful in getting Papa Jupiter dead. Which was awesome.
And then we had the final fight too between Mars and Doug. And before they even get to the fight, the scene of Ruby running with the baby, which is in the trailer as well. That is the funniest. I watched that 5 times, Nate. Her running with that baby, clearly a doll, and those babies' legs. Maybe it's just because I was holding a baby around the same time, and it was just these little legs just flopping in the wind.
Yeah, like, that's great. Yeah,
I was crying. I mean, it's an unintentional laughing thing, but it was great. It's great, great tension release because this movie, like I said earlier, ages very well. It is still just as terrifying, I think.
Yeah, it is. This could happen right now.
Now, Kevin, what do you think about this final fight scene? It's Doug finally kind of getting pushed over the edge to save his daughter from Mars.
No, becoming like animalistic and not. Mm-hmm. I mean, even though he got his ass whipped, but then he came back. Well, not similar because the fight with the Doug character and what would be the Mars character in the remake was much more brutal.
Yep.
And he had to fight a couple of people, actually. Doug fought 3 people, actually. He had to fight a lot more. But I think it was a good, scene. The Ruby scene, you're right, with the baby was pretty funny. I mean, I don't know why they didn't let her use a real baby and risk dropping the baby in the mountains. But it was a good scene. And again, he was not, the Doug character was a guy who, maybe weighed 140, 150, you know what I mean? Yeah. And Mars was so much bigger than him. But it was showing his, the the fight to survive. They were fighting to live, the whole taglines and stuff, and fighting for his daughter. He had already lost his wife, and all he had to live for was the kid. So it was to show the animal instincts of what that family became to live, and knew that he had to, muster up everything he can to knock this guy off.
Now, when he gets saved, I wrote in my notes. So he gets saved because Ruby takes the time to grab a rattlesnake,
right,
and then put that on Mars, right, her brother, when there are literally infinite rocks. All
that she could have hit him with.
Same charmer routine for like 3 minutes while he's getting stabbed to death almost 100 times. There are literally millions of rocks all around. I was like, what are you doing? You put the baby all alone on top of a hill somewhere.
Look, sometimes you can't.
In the sun?
Sometimes
what
you can't.
Is happening?
Sometimes you can't see the hills for all the rocks. I get that.
I mean, I was just incredulous. I could not believe this was happening. But I mean, it's still effective. Doug survives. The baby survives. Ruby survives. I'm waiting for the She's All That sequel that she's gonna get, where she gets they redo her whole look and she reintegrates in society. Would have loved to have seen that movie. But yeah, I mean, the ending, man, I was just like, come on, Doug's got to get out of this. And then he does. They get the baby, and then that hard cut to an ending. It was a very
So what did y'all think about? What did you think about that? Like Kevin, let me ask you, what did you think about that ending where it's just him stabbing overhead and then it just cuts the credits? Like
a lot of 70s movies ended like that. Kind of an abrupt ending, almost like the Sopranos ending where it just goes to black. Last Sopranos thing where it's like, that's it. So I thought the same thing. I'm like, that's it. But I wouldn't say the perfect ending, but it ended the way it needed to. I think the implication and the assumption is that they knocked them all off, and the family is somehow going to get out of there, even though they have no vehicle.
That's what I was going to say. The ending is okay. So Doug's there, baby's there, Brenda's there, Bobby's there, right? Mm-hmm. And Ruby. Okay. And then you still got Beast, right? You got to have Beast. How are they getting out of this?
Well, you assume Ruby's alive and maybe takes them back to the grandpa gas station where, again, in your mind, this is the way I played off in my mind. I played it off in my mind like this 35, 40 years ago, was that there's probably a bunch of cars that they can get to work in that, that area. Maybe there's a truck or there's some vehicle there.
Well, there's a phone. They blew up the one truck. I wasn't sure.
They blew up the one truck, right? Or there's maybe another phone down there, or they're going to go on the road where they were at the gas station.
Well, they've been knocking over like Air Force supplies and everything. So maybe there's still a bit of a base, or at least there's some. I mean, they're clearly telecommunications because they had walkie-talkies and all that stuff that they had stolen.
Or Doug could take over for Papa Jupe and be Doug Jupe. And they could start a new family. They could start a new club.
I don't think they're going to want to do that, but that would be quite a twist.
Well, to the victor goes the spoils, guys. So they had their rights to the cave.
They get all these rocks.
I get these disgusting, smelly clothes. This is all I get.
I got all these rattlesnakes.
All these the rattlesnakes you can handle.
I mean, Mama Jupe's the only one besides Ruby that survives.
But she looked about. I mean, my God, I hope she wasn't 50 as well. My God, what are we looking at here?
They had no food, but she's got like tons of booze. I'm not sure that.
And the broom was really. They sweep out the cave. I didn't think that they. But yeah, no, her character was like non-existent to me. She was just
I would have liked to have seen her more.
Why didn't they emphasize the mother more? And if the mother. Obviously the father was abusive. I don't think the mother was as abusive, but it was a weird dichotomy. I would have thought the mother would have been either more patriarchal or trying to get them away from the father's abuse, but the mother was kind of indifferent. You know what I mean? It was an indifferent character. I got to really take a look at her again. She's the matter of fact, I'll say this. She's the most forgettable character in the film, in my opinion.
Yeah, they don't give her a whole lot to do.
The mom's the most forgettable character in the film. I would say that whole family, each one of them played a role. The rest, Mars, they all had their scenes. the mother's was insignificant to me. As a matter of fact, they could even did a thing where the mother was dead, almost like what they did to Roseanne on The Connors. Like, mom died, and we're going to continue on with a new cast.
Soldier
we don't
on,
have, we have no mom. The mom was irrelevant. As a matter of fact, I think they just dressed someone who was in like hair and makeup, and they said, "Here, put this schmuck on, and you'll be the mom." Like, I think they didn't even really cast. Matter of fact, I'm looking for who played the mom, and it's a woman who doesn't have any kind of credits. Her name is Cordy Clark. And because I was curious, I'm like, was the mom any kind of actress, or was she just someone they threw in there? And from the look of it, and I'm Googling her, it looks like she hasn't done anything. So maybe this is a one and done for the mother.
Maybe.
She didn't
go out on top. Yeah.
She had no real, give her a scene where show her if supposedly, by the way, we didn't bring this up. This guy kidnapped that mom. She was a person who found way through the desert, and he took her up there and got her incessantly pregnant over and over again with all these kids, and kept her up there barefoot and pregnant, literally. But she was a kidnappee from traveling there. But you guys remember that part where they explained that?
Yeah. The grandpa's explaining that.
She was she's a prostitute somewhere, and then
she was a prostitute. Yes, she was a prostitute. And by the way, I wouldn't have paid a damn nickel for her prostitution services. That woman looked like she was hurting even before she got kidnapped. But
I think she got kidnapped like 2 decades before.
I don't know what
the kids exactly.
I mean, my God, but again, the mom was so insignificant that I'm sure even people listening to something about a clan family is like, oh, I wonder what the mother's like. Well, wonder no more. She was insignificant in this movie. Her sons all had major roles, and the mom might as well have just been literally, I think, guys, not to say this, maybe it's not the PC thing to say, but she was basically a baby machine and nothing more. For that.
Yeah,
for that
I would have loved for her to actually had a personality, because there's a lot going on. Yeah. She was kidnapped, right? And so she's there, and she's had all these kids.
Oh, she's full on Stockholm syndrome.
She has the ties to the kids. They're her kids. So she stays for that reason. But I would have loved to have seen anything bordering.
Well, and she was disciplining Ruby when she tried to run off. That's what she was. So she was all in on it.
She was a disciplinarian, but obviously the father was a masochist. And the mother obviously was you're right, Stockholm syndrome. That's what you got to assume. But yeah, the figure, she was a call girl, and he took her up to the mountain. I guess she had not much of a life, so she said, cave living's not better than being on the streets in Vegas.
I mean, I get why she would be prioritizing the drinks over the food, for sure.
There was a lot.
Okay. I want to forget this life ever happened.
Wait, by the way, was there a bar and grill that they raided down there or something?
Yeah, I don't know. That must have been part of the supply swap or something that they were.
Grandpa's old moonshine on the side. I mean, what was going on there?
I'll say this. I would have loved to have seen a sequel where she gets rescued whenever everyone gets rescued, right? Assuming, and they find Mama Jupiter, and they're like, "Oh, she was kidnapped. We can maybe integrate her society," and she kind of plays along that. Oh yes, I was kidnapped. That's the narrative. But what if she actually wasn't kidnapped? What if she had agreed to go out and then?
What if she is the mastermind? Yeah,
that's what I'm like. She's the one that's at least a partner. So yeah, that way you have a continuance when she's back at some small mining town. I guess mining.
That would have been amazing.
That would have been kind of a cool turn.
Ooh,
yeah,
would have loved that.
Well, listen,
he was disciplining people. Yeah, that actually would have been good.
Well, Nate, just like this movie, I'm going to abruptly end this discussion so we can get into the final cut.
Final cut.
All right, Kevin, as our guest, our unsuspecting victim, or well, technically you as a horror movie fan, you are very much a suspecting.
You apparently see this movie double-digit times.
I'm clearly
maybe you know what, Nate.
Culprit
yeah, actually, let's start with Nate, because Nate, this is the first time you had ever seen this movie, so I want to know.
This is a glaring hole. Yeah, a glaring hole in my horror movie canon.
So why don't you kick us off?
And I am the person who tries to get everyone to watch the older films. That's always me, and yet this one somehow slipped for me. So I'm glad I didn't get to see it. It's good. It's not quite Texas Chainsaw Massacre good, but what is, at that point, right? Mm-hmm. So it's not quite that high, but it is solid. It is good. It's essentially a good Devil's Rejects. I'm glad I watched Devil's Rejects first and didn't like it, because I would have hated Devil's Rejects even more if I had seen this film already. So I guess I had seen the remake, but this has got a different, older, grimy Texas Chainsaw Massacre kind of feel, right? So But no, it's good. I think it does hold up fairly well. This is a lot of like, young or no name people. So the acting isn't super great, but I think the reason they prioritized, Wes Craven prioritized, hey, can you cry? Can you whatever, is because there's not a lot of acting to do. I mean, there's some wooden dialogue, but then the shit hits the fan and people are moving, right? There's not a lot of opportunity to act other than the dad's hilarious, side to side steering wheel driving when the plane goes over him. But I mean, other than that, I mean, the characters and the setup and the story is terrifying. It could still happen. If this is today and you drive through an area with no cell signal, you're essentially in Hills Have Eyes.
That's true. Yeah.
If you go west of San Antonio in Texas by like 45 minutes, from there to El Paso, how many hours is that, Mitch? Like 6 hours or something? You are in Hills Have Eyes. Yeah. Wow, you're in Hills Have Eyes right now.
6 hours? Wow.
Yeah, I mean, if you drive from like El Paso to Houston, like across the whole state,
I think it's further than
I would 13 hours, like 13 hours or something.
Well, I would hope at the very least I would get to hear the classic line, "You made a wrong turn, boy."
Yeah, I mean, if you go off I-10, you are in Hills Have Eyes. So nice. It's still possible. This is still relevant. I think it can still happen.
It's still relevant that you could be abduced and brutally murdered in any state. Like, every state has a Hills Have Eyes area. Let's be honest. Every state.
I would give this movie in Deliverance would be the double feature that I would really
see. The Deliverance guys, when I watched
Never Drive Anywhere.
But let me be honest with you, and you guys too. I watched Deliverance recently, and I got to be honest with you. I would have totally, as soon as the guys tried the sexual stuff and the guy had the shotgun, would have went right for it, lifted it right over his head, punched him in the face. I was saying to myself, there were so many opportunities to get these guys when they were close by that those guys succumb and gave in way too easy. You know what I mean? Like the Hills Have Eyes guys had knives and big butchered knives. They were dangerous and they were like wild people. These two dumbasses in Deliverance, I never understood why those guys let themselves. To me, it was the fight was on as soon as they came at them like that. Just grab the shotgun. Those guys looked like they were weak. They weren't anything. But the Hills Have Eyes guys looked like they were like freaky monsters. They were intimidating. But the Deliverance thing, I always watch that scene. I'm like, right there, John Voight could have nailed him right in the face. And Ned Beatty like gave him sexually like right off the bat. That was weird. So it was like,
I think they were just like, is this really happening? Like
that was. I mean, even when he was touching him, he was like, like it was like, what's going on? Even if you're like half a man, even if you're like not a fighter, I mean, it was just a real. Every time I watch Deliverance, I just watch that movie and I go, there was so many opportunities for this not to happen this way. But then again, I guess the film wouldn't have been very good if it went down like that.
Right. They just punch him in the throat, be like, movie in, roll credits.
Just roll credits.
Well, the movie for me is I see that guy playing the banjo, I just turn around and I never go that direction. That's the movie.
I saw that guy recently. You know, he's still alive and he talks about that film. And did you guys know that he actually didn't know how to play the banjo? That guy in that scene. You ever do a movie review of Deliverance?
Not yet.
No, we haven't. It's on the list.
Yeah, if you do it, let me on board with that because I've seen it like 5 times. So.
I have a story about Deliverance. I watched it right before we drove from my college down to Destin, Florida for spring break.
Oh Lord.
And we go through the deep South, and this takes place in this is like a West Virginia, but tomato at this point, right? It's like a rural area, whatever.
Well, the Deliverance was in Georgia.
Or Georgia, yeah. Sorry,
Appalachian Mountains, I think.
Yeah, and so we go through Alabama and rural Alabama, and our car, like we came from a blizzard, and then we go through like a rainstorm, and our car was like my friend's old car, and it got a bunch of water under it, and it started like sputtering, and we're in this small town, like, oh my God, I just watched Deliverance last night. This is so terrible. Oh, never stop here.
Well,
Luckily, we were fine.
Shout out to our listener, Nick. So last episode when we did Babysitter 2, we talked about if we were, we were in limbo and we came back, what would we do at that time instead of what they did in the movie? And Nick said on Twitter that maybe I should go back in time and the story I told you about with when I got in the woods in Louisiana and that dude with no legs rolled up on the 4x4 and was like, y'all should go that way. And I got in my car and turned and went the opposite direction. He's like, oh, maybe you should like go back and actually go that direction he told you. I'm like, No, that's a terrible idea. That's how I end up in The Hills Have Eyes. It would be the
swamp has eyes.
The swamp has eyes, but I mean,
don't want that. No,
that's a terrible idea, Nick. How dare you? Thank you for listening.
Nick,
terrible idea.
Keep them coming. Okay, anyway, so to get to the score,
yeah.
I'm gonna give this. It's good. I'm vacillating. It's at least a 7 for me. I'm probably gonna go 7. Yeah, 7 out of 10 beasts. I mean, it's 7 or an 8. It's close. Like I said, never seen it before. This dog needed a franchise. I don't.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go look up who that dog actor is to go see other late 70s thing that dog was in. What a monster!
Oddly enough, he is still working somewhere in Vegas right now. So.
What? That dog would be amazing. Dog in a wheelchair telling jokes or something?
No. I'm sorry. It's his great grandson. That's what.
Okay. Well, whatever from that family line, gotta be money. I don't care who it is. That dog's amazing. But yeah,
should at least made a cologne like Beast Cologne in the 70s.
Dude, I would
like Aquavelva, like
smell like the hills.
Yeah. Smell like murder in the hills and gasoline.
No, it's imagine the hills have ear or have noses.
God,
the hills have ears. Totally everything. Anyway, Kevin, 7 out of 10. Watch it. It's good. It's on Shudder. It's a classic. It's Wes Craven, so it's going to be solid. But yeah, I'm glad I finally got that one off the list. But yeah, good movie.
Kevin, what do you give this out of 10?
Definitely giving it an 8 out of 10. I wouldn't say it's not the perfect movie. It's 70s, a lot of things technically that could have been better. But again, consider the timepiece. It's 1977. I mean, the same year that some major films like Saturday Night Fever and Close Encounters of the Third Kind, major box office films, but there was also silly 70s films like Smokey and the Bandit that came out that year, a lot of nonsensical 70s movies. So for a horror movie, absolutely good. I think way ahead of its time. Because obviously clear cut influence on the Wrong Turn series. I think Hills Have Eyes just as much as Texas Chainsaw Massacre because of the amount of different characters, Sawtooth and One Eye and this and that. Let's be honest, Leatherface was all about Leatherface. You didn't really, you had Grandpa and stuff, but they weren't any threats. Leatherface was the only threat in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. In the Hills Have Eyes, the whole clan was a threat. All the brothers, the father, you had multiple people to worry about. And the same thing in Wrong Turn, you had 4 or 5 killers in the same family. That's a problem. One killer is bad enough, but I would give it an 8 out of 10 because of it was scary. There was parts that to this day I think are still scary. If I would show this to probably anybody who hadn't seen it, I don't care if they're a millennial or an older person or even a teenager, some of those scenes are very frightening. Like when he pulled the grandfather out of the blue, comes through that window and pulls the father, and then you're trying to explain that's actually his father he's killing right now. It's like, oh my God, like it's a little shocking. And also the inbred thing, and a little bit almost ahead of its time with other movies that followed it. Again, you talked about it made $25 million altogether. It only cost about $500,000 to make, $350,000,
like 350 to 700.
And you had the most known actress in that was someone who was not even known yet, Dee Wallace, who probably 5 years after this commanded maybe $500,000 for a picture after E.T. But then I guarantee you Dee Wallace got scale. She probably got scale. So it wasn't some big cost for any of these. Most of the actors had never acted before nor acted again. So no big budget for any actors. Probably all location they paid for, to be honest with you, and blowing up a few things. And stuntmen they probably paid for. But that's a pretty good return on your profit and a pretty good story to a degree. The ending could have been a little bit better. Bob could have been in a lot better shape. Could have took care of his heart a little bit better, but he wouldn't be in the position he's in. Obviously, a lot of cheeseburgers went on in the 1970s. But I think overall, and then Beast, the dogs. I'm surprised, guys, it didn't spawn a German Shepherd boom where everyone went out and bought a German Shepherd and named it Beast. Right. Because to me, back in the 70s, I remember it well. You know what the popular dog to get back in the 70s was, guys? Doberman Pinscher.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
everyone was getting Dobermans.
I'm going Beast all the way.
But the dog was really good, and I think overall it had its moments. And clearly, it's a shame that Part 2 in '85 wasn't better, and it didn't become a Nightmare on Elm Street type of franchise for Wes. I mean, obviously, his destiny was to strike gold in Nightmare on Elm Street and on Scream, but let's give Hills Have Eyes credit. If it wasn't for that, Wes probably wouldn't have gotten the opportunity to do Nightmare on Elm Street.
No, we'd have a lot more Abe Snake movies.
Abe Snake is an. I'm thinking of using that, the Don Tony and Abe Snake show. What do you guys think of it?
I like it.
I do. It's got pop. That name has got a little something.
I like that he went Abe and not Abraham. Like Abraham Snake seems a little too.
No, that's his father. He's Abe Snake.
My father's Abraham. You can call me Abe.
Exactly.
Oh my God. Yeah. I mean, for me, it's 8 out of 10 as well. I won't belabor a lot of the points. Y'all pretty much hit everything. I do wish there was a little bit more to this ending, but it's not. It's not in itself a bad ending. I just wish there was a little bit more to it. But you know what I guess I didn't like about the remake was it was so much emphasis on the radioactivity kind of stuff, and everyone's these horror, these like just mutants, right? This wasn't. This was just this dude at his core is a guy that was basically left for dead in the desert and has learned to survive by any means necessary. And while you're obviously rooting against him, you understand it. And I think that's part of what makes this movie so good, and also just still terrifying. Like, when they get that baby, I know it's going to happen. I know the baby's fine. At the same time, it's still tense even now. And I think that's a trademark of a great movie. So yeah, I mean, high reviews. If you are like Nate and have not seen this movie, still, first off, we told you to watch it before we started. So, come on now. But also, I mean, go watch it. It's incredible. Nate, where can they find us?
You can find us, as always, at TX Pod Massacre on Twitter, Texas Podcast Massacre on Instagram and Facebook. Give us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. Still waiting for the 5-star review that mentions Human Centipede.
Shut your mouth. To watch. We're not watching Human Centipede.
I will keep mentioning it. Please put that review in. And get it on the list.
Y'all want to fuck with Nate? Start putting some Rob Zombie movie. We'll just go full Rob Zombie 5-star.
Now, we'll see what people want to inflict more pain on what people by who puts 5-star reviews.
That's
in
right.
And picks the movie. But anyway, put a 5-star review and we'll put the movie on the list. We have one or two coming up still. We have a packed month for October coming up. A lot of good movies. So we're excited to do those. Check us out on Spotify, all the other podcast platforms, and we'll keep you guys updated on all the October horror festivities. I am super excited. We have really good movies coming up, and we'll be coming up with our 31 movies in October to watch.
Nice. Mitch
has 2 young children. I don't know if you're going to get to 31, Mitch, this year, but we'll get combined. We'll get there.
Well, I'm going to try my damnedest. Some of these baby movies I've seen before, so I can cheat a little bit.
Okay, there's that. My son did watch the entirety of The Babysitter Killer Queen.
How was it? I saw the attractions for that. I just got Netflix and Hulu recently. I didn't have either one until recently, and I saw someone's like, "Oh, did you see The Babysitter?" I'm like, I haven't seen that. Is that any good? Someone told me it was a horror comedy that took a sharp left turn at some point. Like, is that an accurate?
I recommend the first one.
Yeah, the first one's better. It is horror comedy, but it's they're not, in our opinion, not all that great. But I've got some better suggestions for you when we get.
Well, yeah, you can maybe give me some suggestions off the air. I was looking for things to watch. I was wondering if any of those Netflix horror films that they put out on their own are any good, because quite honestly, all of them seem like serial killers and ghosts. Mm-hmm. That's all those are about. Is there any? Do they have any like slasher type of films on Netflix? I don't see any. Like, I was looking for something good to watch. Well, you guys could tell me about that off the air. So
yeah. There's some interesting original ones, but not really slasher. We've reviewed quite a few Netflix kind of original horror ones.
But they're all kind of like
B-level movies, nothing big.
Am I wrong? It's always about the occult or ghosts. Is that? Am I in the zone?
There is a heavier
lot of the supernatural.
Supernatural. Yeah, it's also
there's like
At least The Babysitter is more of a killer movie, right? There's a killer in the movie, right?
Yeah,
like a tangible killer, not some ghost. So I don't mind ghost films, but I've seen enough of Insidious and all this stuff. If it's just more nonsensical, to be honest with you guys, I tried to watch Stranger Things and I was done by the third episode. I wasn't into it at all. Like the sci-fi thing, I'm more of like a tangible killer type of guy. Like obviously, the films I like are more slasher films. So
yeah, not too many of those. There's some things here and there, but yeah, we can chat with you.
But like we mentioned kind of earlier in the episode, if you're not finding what you want on Netflix, we'll give you some pointers, but definitely check out Shudder.com. So SHUDDER.com. And use the promo code TPM. So our initials, Texas Podcast Massacre, TPM. You'll get a free month to try Shudder out, and it's all horror movies, all great stuff. So definitely
it has The Hills Have Eyes. What else do you need?
Boom.
At that point?
So if that is what you need to watch this movie, do it. With that said, Kevin, thanks you so much again for hanging out with us. Sure. It's always a blast. We have such a great time having you on, and we will definitely have you back on soon.
Yeah, no, I enjoyed it. This was probably my the most fun. I mean, this was even better than Devil. This was even better.
Yeah,
that's
high praise.
It's high praise. Well, out of all the films that we've talked about, I've been on a few, maybe 4 or 5 times now, and probably this would be my favorite film of all the ones we've talked about.
Yeah.
So this was definitely in my wheelhouse, and I enjoyed it thoroughly. And you got me on a Sunday night where I'm at my most energetic because I don't have anything going on Sunday.
Yeah,
so
no pay-per-views.
I probably sound like I'm ready to. I can outrun Bob and Hills Have Eyes right now if we had a race.
I think a lot of people.
I feel like you can have both your legs tied together and outrun this guy. I don't think that's a problem.
Guys, again, let's please note I am 2 years older than him when he made that film.
But he
got him covered.
But you have the Centrum Silver. He doesn't. That's what he was mining for.
I take it, and I'll be honest with you, I take a Centrum Silver and I take 2 Dinos from Flintstones. Yeah,
there you go. That's all you need.
2 Dinos, and you wash it down with a high C, and you're good to go.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, all right. Well, yeah, we'll have you back on soon. But yes, for all of us here at Texas Podcast Massacre, thank you so much for tuning in, and just keep telling yourself it's only a movie. Good night.